I am not Diggy Dog, and welcome back to like my fifth video, I believe. But today on my fifth video on this new channel, we are talking about something that's very important to all of us, even us political slash gaming people: the tariffs. Because as we know, I believe Trump's Liberation Day was a day that will go down in infamy as the day that the American stock market crashes again. But this time for Generation Zs, like me. So now, you know how like in 2008 we had that recession, and like, you know, we were like children back then. We didn't know, we didn't give a damn. We was like, oh, who cares? I'm gonna play my Pokemon, right? That was like in '08, right? Now we in 2025. Trump literally tariffed like I don't know, so many darn countries that we use for like imports. And don't get me wrong though, before we get into like this article that I'm reading, the type of stuff that will be affected by the tariffs, that also includes your video games. Like, you know how I made that video about the Nintendo Switch being kind of pricey? Well, it's going to get even pricier now, thanks to the tariffs that we have put on like Japan and whatnot. That will also lead me to like saying this. Because according to a GameStop managing editor, I got this off of Reddit, by the way. I'm on our Nintendo Switch. Pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025, which is happening for like the most of the rest of the world. Canada does not have its time changed for pre-order because they're not a part of the United States of America. They are Canada, so they don't have that. But us Americans, we do. And due to that, Nintendo will update their timing in a later date. The launch date of June 5 has remained unchanged. But with that being said, we can already imagine how much the price of this console will get jacked up. Because if it's already $450, imagine with the extra Trump tariffs that we're going to get, that 450 might go shoot up to 550 or higher or whatnot. I'm not a mathematician, but all I do know though, that your console, your Nintendo Switch 2, if you are an American and you do not have money because you are not a part of the top 1% of this gosh darn country, then you will be unable to afford the Switch 2 unless you go out of your way to like buy it. And this goes on for like the rest of gaming as well, because if the Switch 2 is going to cost like $600, well, if we get to the PS5, and we already know how the PS5 was when it first came out, it was high up the ass. It came out in a terrible time during the pandemic, and there was a chip shortage at the same time. And so now that we have this new administration adding in tariffs, which I want to make a preface to say though, before I switch back to the article, that tariffs has always been in America. This is not a new thing. We have had tariffs on countries before. It's a tax, right? It's a part of life. The point is though, I from like Hassan Piker said this yesterday during his stream, but you kind of want to use the tariffs like a scalpel, right? You want to be precision. You want to be precision with it, right? You don't want to just like go into it raw dog it like Trump's doing. Because instead of Trump using a scalpel, he's using like a katana. He's using a chain sword to like slice out the problem. But the problem is though, it's not going to help Americans. He wants to bring all the manufacturing back to America. Fine. I'll actually say that's fine. We need more manufacturing in America. But when you have these high tariffs, we're not going to get a lot of things anymore. A lot of the things that we want are going to be expensive. And it's all because most of America voted for this freaking orange fool, and the Democrats didn't do nothing to stop them. They were basically turning into like Trump like Republicans anyway. So they didn't help us out in the main point. So now, because they didn't help us out, and because half of America is so darn stupid that they thought their eggs were going to be cheaper under Trump, and newsflash, it's not. It's about to be a hell of a lot more expensive for all your stuff that you want. because you voted for Trump, and this is what you get. You get nothing. You don't get the winning. Trump's like, oh yes, we're winning. So much winning. No, nobody's winning. Nobody's winning. This damn man Trump is out here trying to sell a $5 million credit card with his face on it. Do you see how mad I am? Do you see how this country is falling apart? And it only took the man January, February, March, April, 4 months to just mess up the country. So now that we can't afford our treats anymore. And that's a very important part because all these tariffs right here are affecting our treats. And you know what I mean by treats? Our iPhones, our shoes, our clothing, all that stuff. We don't make that in America. We get that from China. We get that from Taiwan. All that stuff that we love that keeps us distracted. And that's the main point. We get distracted. He wants to distract us, but now we don't have the distractions anymore because he's taken away the distractions due to these tariffs being raised high up the ass. And so now all of the American people are going to suffer for one man's stupid plan because half of this country is a goddamn hellfire. Huh. So anyway, now I just need to get that out of my system. I'm gonna read the article now. Inflation-wary Americans may soon find out that they are paying more for a host of products after President Trump announced 2 new types of tariffs on April the 2nd, a day he termed Liberation Day, because he believes the measures will erase the trade imbalance between the U.S. and other nations. While Mr. Trump characterized these tariffs as paid by other nations that are in fact paid by U.S. importers such as Walmart and Amazon, because the tariffs create higher costs for those businesses, they typically pass on all or some of the tariffs to consumers through price hikes. You see that part right there? Because we get most of our stuff through Walmart, Amazon, big companies, big old companies. And since now we have the tariffs now, they're like, well, we got to make the cost up, so we're going to have to price the hikes. We're going to have to raise the prices for everything. The new tariffs introduced by Mr. Trump on Wednesday included a 10% universal tariff, as well as a so-called you see the word, on more than 60 countries that are trade partners with the United States. The tariffs will be additive, meaning that the imports will face both universal tariffs of 10% plus the specific import levies targeting each nation. During his announcement, Mr. Trump said that these tariffs will eventually lower the prices for Americans and issues on which voters say they want him to focus on. Sure. It's gonna go down. Don't go down. Yeah. But economists who are smarter than the president and myself are predicting instead that the consumers and business will likely encounter higher inflation, which price hikes on everything from food imports like coffee and chocolate. That's your treats right there. Your coffee. Oh, I know Americans love their coffee. We don't get the beans down here. No. We get them beans from across the nations, across the world, baby. And all that coffee, you coffee addicts, it's going to go high. And you're going to suffer. And I know a lot of you Republicans are drinking like 5 coffees a day while snorting like 5 lines of blow. Shoot. But yeah, and your iPhone. You know how you want to buy an iPhone every year like the dumb consumer you are? Well, now it's going to be expensive. For all the president's talk of a new golden age, this huge tax increase will inevitably result in higher prices for American families, lower growth in business investments, and diminish exports and manufacturing output as the country's factories face retaliation abroad and costlier inputs. Roughly half of the imports at home, said Scott Lincoln and Colin Gravall, trade experts at the Cadio Institute, in an email. They added, with today's announcements, the United States tariffs will approach levels not seen since the Smoot-Hawley-Taft Tariff Act of 1930, which was considered a global trade war and deepened the Great Depression. And that's the thing right there. If we are going back in time, we see that a lot of these tariffs come at like the worst times for us. And like as this person said right here, the freaking act of 1930 that's let deep in the Great Depression. Because we all remember the Great Depression. We all read that in history. But apparently, our politicians didn't read that in history. Apparently, they skipped over that part and was like, Great Depression? Nah, they just didn't struggle hard enough. They weren't grinding hard enough. Stupid. And here's some stuff that will go up. Electronics like iPhones and TVs and your Nintendo Switch. Among the nations targeted by Mr. Trump's recoverable tariffs are China, Taiwan, and South Korea, who are the top exports of electronics to U.S. from Apple iPhones to television sets. So you better pray to God you don't break your television. You better pray to God you don't break your phone. You better pray to God you don't break anything, because trying to replace that is going to kill your money. You will not be able to afford it anymore. You will be a broke-ass clown, like you already are. But thank God you voted for Donald Trump. So much winning. We're going to be winning. We're going to be winning over here, winning over there. And they're going to love it. There's even 25% tariffs on auto imports, which go into effect today. Imported autos will also face the 10% universal tariffs. So ultimately, Americans consumers could end up paying up to additional $2,500 to $5,000 for the lowest cost American cars, and up to $20,000 for some imported models, according to the April 2nd estimate from Anderson Economic Groups. So yes, thank God I have a car. But if you want a car now, and you know, a lot of the good cars that we like to drive in America are not made in America. So you're not going to be able to afford it. Ha ha ha. Who cares about you? Oh, what's that? Little Timmy needs some new clothes because little Timmy's family is living paycheck to paycheck. Mom and dad are working 2 jobs a night. And all they want to do is force some clothes for little Timmy because little Timmy don't got no new shoes. The clothing and shoes, the bulk of the apparel of shoes sold in the United States stores like Walmart, Target, manufactured outside of USA with China, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. All going up, 34% for China, 46% for Vietnam, and 37% for Bangladesh. So little Timmy, you're going to be walking around some raggedy ass clothes from Goodwill, buddy. Oh, you're an alcoholic? And the only way that you can escape America's continuous downfall is by drowning yourself in the bottle? We got you dogs too. We're gonna make you spend more for your wine and your spirits. So all you white women who like to drink wine after class, no. That teacher freaking check ain't gonna cover that. No more alcohol for you. You're gonna suffer through this Americanness sober. Yes, furniture, coffee, chocolate, anything that you need, Swiss watches, all that. Expensive. And your grocery bills will get higher and higher while our wages stay stagnated. Now, if our wages increase with the inflation, we might actually have a chance to survive, but our wages have not increased with the inflation part, I feel like, from my understanding. Apparently it has, but I don't think our wages are maxing this high of an increase. So we're not going to be able to afford anything, which brings me back to Nintendo. And why a lot of gamers are mad, and rightfully so, at the price of like the Donkey Kong game, which I mistakenly got wrong. I'll eat crow on that. It is $80 physical for the Mario Kart World Tour, is what I meant to say. Still, regardless though, if this is the case, according to this Reddit nigga, either Nintendo take a lower loss on the Switch. I said the N-word, my bad. The Nintendo Switch 2 takes a loss, and it could be end up costing closer to the PS5 Pro or some shit. A random 46% tariff slapped on Vietnam is nothing to fuck around with. So, as a lot of people have said in this Reddit comment, a lot of Nintendo's manufacturing, because during 2019, Trump also imposed tariffs, so they switched a lot of their manufacturing over to China and Vietnam and whatnot. And due to Vietnam and China getting these tariffs, boy howdy, they're going to be more expensive to get this. And quite frankly, when we're talking about this Switch 2, I don't think the Switch 2 is going to sell well in America. The rest of the world won't be affected. The rest of the world is probably going to be all right, and it probably will sell fine in most markets. But I don't think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to sell well in America. And even though I said it was Nintendo's fault, it's partially their fault a little bit, but not really. They couldn't predict the tariffs. So I wouldn't put all my anger at Nintendo, because at the end of the day, it was the President Trump who's going to increase the price increase from like $450 to like $490 or $500, which I still don't believe is a proper amount of money to pay for a Switch 2. So I still don't think the Switch 2 is worth it at this moment, especially with the tariffs. Even with the initial price, it still wasn't worth it for me. So due to these tariffs, I don't think Nintendo Switch 2 is going to sell well. But that's all I got to tell you today. I just wanted to make a video just expressing my anger. I am not Diggy Dog, and I'm out.